It doesn't budge. Like everything else in the world bends. It doesn't. It can't. It's like the color blue, the number 7. It's not going anywhere and it's not changing. And that is forcing all of us to really reevaluate just how either strong we are or how influential we are or anything like that. Bitcoin doesn't care. And I think that mentality of having something that doesn't care is helping us understand there's sort of a transcendence around us, which is things can be bigger than us, things can be more important than ourselves. It's not even a question. A machine will have to use Bitcoin, because if it's not, every other machine will be using it because it's objectively the heaviest. Talk about this is 10 years old and it can't ever be turned off. That's like being able to invest in the universe when it was 10 years old.
Introducing the Blockware Marketplace. Start mining Bitcoin today. This has the potential to transform the mining industry, as now anyone can buy a Bitcoin ASIC using on-chain or Lightning, see its historical and live hash rate before purchasing, and be earning Bitcoin mining rewards in minutes. This brings transparency and turnkey mining to a whole other level. Start mining Bitcoin today at marketplace.blockwaresolutions.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Blockware Intelligence Podcast. This week I have on Michael Dunworth. Michael, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, glad to have you. I know the episode we recorded with Peter, your brother, was an excellent episode. So I'm sure the world wants to learn more about who you are and what you do.
Oh man, big shoes to fill. No, he's got some. He's out there. His valuations and stuff are awesome. I love listening to it. I eat up that content all day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gold. It's good stuff. Yeah, it's good actually. It's really helpful for me because he's my brother. I mean, it's really nice because he's got much more of a traditional background, like in terms of understanding that stuff. So for me, I don't really know much about that stuff. So I've had to. It's been great drinking from the fire hose as well. So yeah, understanding all that equities markets and all that, just property, all that shit. I've got no clue about any of it. Yeah.
Well, we're definitely excited to hear more about like your background and how you look at Bitcoin, since I didn't realize it was going to be so different from how Peter thinks about it. But let's get into that. So like, what is your background and how did you get into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I got into Bitcoin around 2013 or 2012 actually. It was in Sydney. But it was super random. I was sort of more from a gamer kind of standpoint. So I thought there was some really cool kind of digital universe that would exist with a currency that is by default born and raised in that universe. And so it's not, tainted by anything outside. And so the moment I was like, that's literally what Bitcoin. I was like, oh, sick. So it's like World of Warcraft coins, but for every whatever game ever comes out, they'll all use this kind of thing. Or it was just sort of, it felt like a native currency. So I thought that was kind of cool, but had no clue about anything. Like I think it was sort of 3 or 4 buddies of mine. We chipped in some money and one of our friends was like, okay, I'm going to go buy some. And I've got them on this private key, which is a piece of paper and I'm holding on to it. And that was literally it. That was the security model. So but that was many moons ago. And then I moved to San Francisco and I met my co-founder Yanni and we built a company which is now called Wire. At the time it was called Snapcard. And the only thing it was a browser extension basically where you shop on any website and it would basically take whatever you're buying. So you went to Zara, you went to Amazon or Walmart or whatever. And this browser extension was kind of like a MetaMask type thing, or more like Lolly, which is that Bitcoin product which gives refunds. Basically, you go on, you buy everything you want from any website. So it was like a single universal checkout, and you pay us in Bitcoin, and then we would go and buy the products for you, and they get shipped to you. So it was like sort of just starting out, and we got that was in 2013, and we sort of just evolved our product from that. Everyone in the Bitcoin community really wanted to spend their Bitcoins in 2013 because the price was pumping. It had just reached that all-time high, November 28th, I think it was, to $1,200 on Bitfinex. But then obviously in a bear market now, not everyone's rushing to spend their coins because they're not profit taking anymore. So we're like, oh shit, what's the next? We're got to survive. Like, what can keep the lights on? And so we extended our architecture from just merchant services into wallet services. And that's where we sort of looked like, Coinbase was doing that already. And we felt like that they'd done it really well. And then sort of from there, we evolved to basically, we said where we landed, my co-founder and I, was like, we pretty much said, okay, everyone's fucked if they have to do everything that we have to do, which is we had to figure out bank accounts. We've got to figure out how to get all these licenses, every state, da da da, which is fine. Like, we're happy to play ball with it. It's just very complex, especially if you're brand new to it. You can't, it's not like spinning up a website or anything. It's just very heavy duty red tape. But we invested pretty hard in it, where we were like, all right, well, if this is going to be the way that we've got to go, then we may as well do it for us. And if we can productize that for other counterparties, like, that can build on top of us, then we thought that would be a really good way to sort of shorten the life cycle of going to market for someone with an idea that wants to present it, to build it felt like a really good sort of position to be in. So we sort of said, okay, well, let's turn our product into an API driven product, where basically we go and do all the heavy lifting and try and get all the licenses and the compliance and the busy stuff. And we sort of try and bundle it up and say, you don't have to use us, but if you're looking for something to get started quickly and then you want to, like, kick us to the curb later, then this is a really good, like, springboard for you. And that's kind of, it's sort of, like Stripe. It was very much like Stripe in that we were very developer focused, developer first. And that was a really fortunate thing, I think, just to learn about an industry from the builders and with the builders. Like, as our job was always liaising with sort of the developer community, that means that doing that for 8 years in a 12-year-old or 11-year-old industry, you really got kind of see the machine being built in slow motion, which is this whole economy that we've got now. It's just insane. Like, the Bitcoin is just unbelievable. Like, I just can't believe how strong it is. Like, the word Bitcoin is like going to get carved into the dictionary as like unfuckable or something, like just this extreme level of just, I don't know. It's just got oomph behind it. Like, here's the thing, right? And sorry to be sort of sidetracked, but let's think about machines. Like, machines are going to become an entire population that will come online. So it's sort of like taking the population from 8 billion to, 12 billion pretty quickly, at least in bandwidth capacity. And so now, like, these guys, machines don't have emotions. Like, the highest level of machine intelligence is to create something that can mimic human emotions. So if we can't do that, what we have is machines that understand objectivity versus subjectivity. And we know that Bitcoin is the heaviest source of truth, and that's an objective truth. I can't remember the last time I spoke to a machine and it sort of gave me a vague subjective answer. And what I'm trying to imply is that, like, when we talk about currencies and the weight of Bitcoin that's to come, like, it's not even a question. A machine will have to use Bitcoin, because if it's not, every other machine will be using it because it's objectively the heaviest. So if a machine always does its job and it always wants to make sure that its boss knows it's done its job, which is, the Python script runs and says, yes, boss, I'm finished. What next? Like, it needs to be on the one that is likely to be around the longest. That's how machines think. They think they don't have a time preference. We do. We're humans. So I think, like, I just saw something yesterday and I was wondering about it, and I felt like it was necessary saying, but, like, you can't imagine everyone being like, machines being like, oh shit, we've got to jump on the Solana standard. I'm like, and I'm not trying to bag anyone, but I'm just sort of trying to emphasize how just powerful Bitcoin feels at the moment. Like, it feels like this earthquake under the ground that is almost yet to happen. Like, do you know what I mean? This raw energy. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of insane. Anyway, that was an unrelated tangent that was completely unrelated to what you asked me. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a great way to kick it off. I'm gonna ask you another like very broad question and like take it however you want. Like,
Mhm.
what is Bitcoin to you? Like, you mentioned it's like the source of truth or like the
Yeah.
heaviest chain. What does that mean to you?
Yeah,
And
I think
generally,
Bitcoin is, yeah, it's I think of it like the heaviest machine we've ever built. So it's sort of like the most, like, it's sort of humanity's pyramid, like, at the moment for this generation. It's the masterpiece. It's the biggest piece of work. I just see the value I see in Bitcoin, and I don't want to confuse people when I say this, but I don't really like money. I don't like, as a premise. I think it's quite poisonous for thoughts. I think it dilutes a lot of our thoughts because it's so high up the priority and the necessity stage of our life. it's a need. We really, every single decision we've made our whole life inorganically is subconsciously tainted by money. So when you think about that, we don't really have any pure thoughts because money is always a problem to us. And I found like that's why so many people in the Bitcoin community have peace of mind. And like to me, I think Bitcoin really presents you the chance to slow your brain down and really redefine your life from a wants-based life, which is very consumption driven, to a needs-based life, which is very uh sort of self-understanding. And I know this all sounds spiritual and all that stuff, but you know what, I went to a Catholic school and I've never felt more level of spirituality than I have than understanding Bitcoin, because it's made me it doesn't budge like everything else in the world bends. It doesn't, it can't. It's like the color blue, the number 7. It's not going anywhere and it's not changing. And that is forcing all of us to really reevaluate just how either strong we are or how influential we are or anything like that. Bitcoin doesn't care. And I think that mentality of having something that doesn't care is helping us understand there's sort of a transcendence around us, which is things can be bigger than us, things can be more important than ourselves. And I think that's a really healthy thing to do, because I think as a society, we've been going through a really sort of greed orientated, greed fueled kind of economy. And look, people can say that's successful. I wouldn't call humanity at the moment a success. Like, in what capacity? We've got more mental health issues than ever. You know, people are getting sick. Like, cool, we think we're doing well building all these machines, but it's like, you know, lithium ion, there's a whole category of like cobalt. Like, we're absolutely decimating that resource. It's not growing back anytime soon. But for some reason we think it's a brilliant idea to absolutely just, you know, pump ourselves full of this stuff. Anyway, so the world's got lots of problems, and I think that Bitcoin is a very peaceful place for your mind to go because it just keeps everything so simple. It's so weird because Bitcoin is so complex, but it simplifies everything. I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, I'm losing my marbles in real time, which is cool. So,
Yeah, no, that was awesome. It is interesting. It's like Bitcoin is this one system that, like somehow humans have created, but it's just so resistant. Like its core properties are so resistant to any individual human changing it and any like large group of humans changing it. It's just kind
yeah.
of this like working system that works and can't really be altered. And now we're like adapting around this new tool that now exists, like something like fire or the
Mm.
internet itself.
Like literally, it's persistent. So it's going to keep drawing its line through the universe. And it's kind of like saying you can try and argue it, but or you can just follow the line that I'm trying to draw for you. And that's sort of Bitcoin becomes it I look at it like an arrow of time. You know, I think it's Wikipedia on steroids, basically. So as we start getting more and more hashing like power, like as we start compressing more and more information onto Bitcoin, because it's a stamp of truth. You know, the information that's getting compressed is going to be much more rich, interactive information than Wikipedia. So it might be videos or Wikipedia videos, you know, from YouTube or whatever it is. But you know, we'll build a ledger of time, basically. You know, I think Bitcoin's customers, like the total addressable market for Bitcoin is the energy consumption of Earth, basically. So it's currently 0.1% through its consumption of like total energy used or whatever. Even if it's 1%, doesn't matter. So I'd look less at the money number and more at the energy consumption, because energy consumption number will be more persistent regardless of what time frame we're in or what currency we're measuring against, because the energy will be constant between now and 200 years. But you know, if we're measuring in dollars, you know, something might change over from dollars and it might become whatever the BRICS dollar is in 20 years. And then that becomes the global currency measured against Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite interesting. But I definitely think it's more energy first than money, because money sort of, I feel like if I think of it like money, it feels like it's cock blocking me from thinking about it in a bigger capacity. Do you know what I mean? So I try and sort of be like, okay, imagine it's not money for a second. Imagine it's not money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I know you published Bitcoin is Time Traveling Energy. You published that on
Mhm.
Bitcoin Magazine. It's a really
Yeah.
interesting read. Can you like explain, what that's all about?
Yeah. So the idea is like, Bitcoin's, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Like, no one can change this thing. And I was like, oh, mad. Like, if no one can change it, that's like me being able to kind of like put something somewhere and know that any day of the week I come back, it's going to be there without fail. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, what if I put a treasure chest somewhere? And I was like, okay, well, what about a treasure chest? Like a map, but it's a four-dimensional, like, treasure map. So it's not like where is it? It's where and when is it kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, the idea was mainly I hear people talk about so much FUD about the Bitcoin miners in the future, and when the block reward tapers off, so at the end, obviously, we know that the block reward tapers down to zero, and it has 4 years, whereas zero block reward, and people go, well, there's no more block reward. They're going to have to make more Bitcoin. It's like, no, they're not making Bitcoin because the only thing Bitcoin does is doesn't change. So the first thing we're not ever going to do is make more Bitcoin. So what's going to happen? Okay, well, the miners are going to need an incentive, so they got transaction fees. I need a better argument to that. Like, I need someone to tell me something and be like, "Oh, miners have got no incentive," and I'd be like, "Whoosh!" Like, not even like question it. Like, I don't even want it to be, but maybe the transaction fees won't be that big then. Bullshit, doesn't matter. So I was like, okay, well, I have bitcoins, and bitcoins are only getting more expensive. So I may as well lock some in the future so that now any miner can be like, well, fuck you. This dude's locked some here for us anyway. So we're going to have an incentive. So screw you. And then they've got an immediate argument. It's cryptographically proven that that argument doesn't exist anymore. So it's like, that's cool. I like that. I was like, oh, that's mad. So now it sort of motivates, think of miners. I think of them like this. The miners on the Bitcoin network. Bitcoin is like a spaceship flying through the universe, and it's getting really dark, really far ahead. So it's going really fast and it's going like crazy. Sorry, it's going just into the depths of space as this chain keeps going year after year. So in 100 years, these miners, like Columbus sailing through the dark or whatever without any light at shore, like, these sailors pioneering new worlds, that's what the miners are through space time basically, and they need a lighthouse at the end of the tunnel to stay motivated. If they're the security guardians of this whole network, they need something to be like, nah, come on, man, just a bit longer. Look, I can see the light ahead. You know what I mean? They need something to go for. So if we treat it like a lighthouse, like a beacon, for them, at least to stay motivated, it's like it's just kind of like that little ray of hope. So it's digitizing that little ray of hope that you feel like, I don't know, I've been trying to run more and do more like endurance racing. Dude, I've been trying to find rays of hope anywhere. And this is kind of like that, where you take like a tiny like drop of water was like, oh my God, thank God. Your gratitude becomes much more airtight. So I thought like it's something novel and I hadn't seen it before. So artistically, I felt like that was a kind of cool way to spend Bitcoin. Now, yes, I don't have those Bitcoin anymore. They're cryptographically not mine. They're locked into the future. And so, it's sort of like uh, yeah, what's it called? Oh my God, Schrodinger's cat. This Bitcoin, I've given out the private key and I've locked it. So is it mine or is it yours now? Whose coins who owns the Bitcoin now? Similarly, like, Schrodinger's cat, is it alive or dead? Well, we'll see when we open the box. So yeah, I just found that kind of interesting that I could kind of help problems or help try and solve problems in the future. And it's cheaper today than it's ever going to be in a way. So I thought the worst case scenario is I've this isn't a rebuttal cryptographically to refute, the idea of miners not having an incentive. But I think it was just more like I thought it was an art canvas, you can do cool things and this is a permanent canvas, and I think there's sort of creative ways we can draw energy on that canvas by plotting locked bits of energy that will ever be released in the future. It's kind of like someone drawing a treasure map in the 1800s with a big sign, or in the 1400s with a gigantic sign and planting it in the middle of like the Saudi Arabian desert saying, dig under here, heaps of money. Like, that's basically it. It's the same thing, but on Bitcoin. And it's not, 500 years away. It's 120 years away. Sorry, that's a long, absolute word salad that I've just fed you. Sorry, Joe. Does it
No,
make any
no, that was
sense?
No, that was great. Yeah. So I guess basically what you're saying is you have donated some Bitcoin, 100
Yeah,
plus years or so in the
yeah.
future. You have the private key public for anyone to see. The Bitcoin is like time locked. So
Hmm.
basically, no one can access that Bitcoin today. You can only access that Bitcoin at a certain block height, which
Yeah,
because of the difficulty adjustment is going to be some point probably about 100 something years in the future. And you're saying like,
yeah,
okay, whoever mines that block is going
yeah.
to get earn that Bitcoin that you've basically donated to them.
Yeah, think of it like everyone's got the winning lotto ticket, but we're not drawing. So it's first to hand in the winning lotto ticket, right? So, but we're not drawing it for 120 years. So if you think about everyone getting the lotto ticket over 120 years, it's like, oh, sick. But the reason why this is cool, Joe, is like if you can do something like this, what it can motivate and sort of accelerate is, the adoption of people collaborating in multi-sigs. So if we knew every day at midday on the Bitcoin network, someone donated some Bitcoins, and it was just sort of like they had a marketing budget, like this will be happening in the future. I think there'll be these bounties where people put them up every day, and it's mechanisms for attracting understanding about how to use wallets. It creates motivation to, hey, if we've got a random prize draw, well, let's create a multi-sig, you and I, and both go in it together. And you create this pooling capacity, and people start understanding the collaboration and the multi-sig tech and stuff, which is super cool, I think. And I think the more people get comfortable with that and excited about that, the better. I think that's one of the beautiful things actually when I look at different ecosystems where there are a lot of self-custody by default because they've got all these applications that they're trying to sort of, pump out on these different chains, which means they have like people's natively using MetaMask and stuff, which means you're always self-custodying. So I've always thought that was kind of an interesting educational tool. So I think something like that for Bitcoin is really cool as well, just because you want people to know how to secure their stuff, and I think that's just it's always a good exercise when you have a carrot. So I think like, these little bounties that people throw out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, I definitely completely agree there that, it's so important that more people understand Bitcoin and like they're educated about the core, fundamentals about Bitcoin about, hey, what's a private key? Why do
Yeah.
I care? Why should I
Yeah.
actually hold my own private keys? I guess for like kind of very high level at first and then maybe like more advanced, like why do you think it's important that the audience listening to this, holds their own private keys?
Well, because that's Bitcoin, and I don't mean it like, weirdly. It's like if I give you an iPhone in a box, you go to the Apple store and I go, "Thanks, dude. Here's your iPhone." You pull it out, and and you see like a Samsung Galaxy in the box. You're gonna be like, "The fuck is this? You guys pulling a Swift one here? Like, what the fuck's this?" You'd be like, "That's not the product I ordered because the product you ordered includes the box, but the phone is X, Y, and Z." Bitcoin is that. So the actual thing, this is the whole thing. The security, the key is the Bitcoin. It's the everything. And the moment you can secure the key, you teach yourself that you now control something and it's in your destiny. Basically, it's up to you. And I think that's an incredible lesson in, I learned so much about security from this journey. And that's been, there is nothing more important. Let's think about it. There is nothing more important than security on earth, like ever. Like if you don't have security, we don't have any of the stuff on top of it. If we don't have cryptography, we don't have the internet. If we don't have cryptography, we don't have Bitcoin. So when you think about how influential security is, we sort of better get to know it. And there's no better motivator to get to know it than losing money. And I know that's how I lost coins, in the early days. Everyone's been they put had coins on this website or they put them there, and they just don't learn until you lose, basically. That's and you don't lose, but you experience it. And I call it just tuition fees. Like everyone pays them. Unfortunately, I'll probably be paying them again. I'll lose a wallet in the future. Um, you know, it can all happen. But I think owning the key is Bitcoin because the moment you don't hold the key, then you're waiting for someone to politely return the coins to you. Because if you have an account with Coinbase or Binance, yes, you've got an IOU of Bitcoin. 100%. And I say this, not this is just intellectually honest. It's not a insult. It's totally honest. Like Wire was a platform where we would also custodian things, and you wouldn't own them. We would because we hold the keys. And so that's a thing. We also encourage users to get them off because you don't want to hold coins. Like like every time you do a transaction, I'm petrified. And I've been doing it for 10 years at scale. It's horrifying because I know it is so like, oh my God, did I fuck it up? Like, because we have so much recourse in our daily lives of, we can call and complain to that person. We can go and do this. We can go fix that. We can turn this off. But that's sort of not the behavior that we're used to in our day-to-day lives. So I think everyone treats it with a very high level of respect. And the word Bitcoin comes with a huge amount of respect, I find. Like it just, for all that it's accomplished. It does to me, I feel like it's sort of it's a born product of the internet, and it's created by someone we don't know, which is sort of in the spirit of the internet. But then it's like it's everyone's baby to keep as the person asked it to be. Your job is to not change everything, and this is what Bitcoin's teaching us. It's to slow down, and it's sort of this is a team effort. It's not to bend everything around you, or oh, this is what I'm going to do, and da da da. It's like no, let's just stop. Like what can this do collectively? And so I think everyone from, the social component of people defending its properties of, just this, just that, and just that, no shitcoin, da da da. All these principles it has, values and principles, I think are super important because if you don't have the, like, at least like in this like tech game, because if you don't have those, the social layer is really sort of divided then because there's no core uniting ethos or whatever. And so as you have Bitcoin, you see that people are doing so much work on education, not just doing it for free because they enjoy it. Like so many people are putting so much time and effort into it. And that just shows like everyone just really getting value from it, I think, because I don't think people put enough effort into stuff nowadays unless they're really getting something in return for it. And yes, people like the number go up, but I promise you, and I mean, you could probably be a testament to this. I know a lot of people on this Bitcoin journey that have had very transformational sort of mental journey, like spiritually in a way, like, or they've just realigned or recalibrated themselves with themselves a bit better because it's very noisy out here. Like, in Earth, there's shit everywhere all day, every day. People pumping full of ads, pumping full of, different messages, seeing a million people, million colors. There's a lot of noise. But, when the clock just keeps going tick, tock, tick, it can be the repetition can be very therapeutic, I think, and just sort of the simplicity of it all. It quietens your mind a bit. Oh man, it's very early, by the way, Joe. So if I sound crazy, I think it's because your brain's more creative in the mornings, just FYI.
Yeah, totally fair. Yeah, it is. Bitcoin is like a very unique tool or very unique technology. Unlike a lot of the, I guess, somewhat recent technologies that exist today. Like even, I
Mm,
mean, Bitcoin is basically viable because of the internet. But like even the internet itself, like there's so much noise on the internet, whether it's like social media,
yeah.
TikTok or whatnot. It's like Bitcoin
Yep.
is just this one random technology that's very different, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know why it's different? Because it's the same. It only stays the same. And that's
Yeah.
the only thing that it has different to everyone else. And it's fine. It's kind of weird. That's why it sticks out, I think, or it kind of gets people a bit because everyone sort of yeah, yeah, I feel like that. It sticks out to me at least, like because like when people say, "Oh, why do you like Bitcoin?" It's like, dude, I've never seen anything that can't be killed before. Like that's to me, I'm like, whoa, that's a pretty cool tech. Like, damn, like whoever built that, that's an architectural like structurally, that's a pretty powerful thing. So yeah, I think I'd be worth. And what I can invest in it? What do you mean? Yeah, now sick. Like talk about this is 10 years old and it can't ever be turned off. That's like being able to invest in the universe when it was 10 years old and like getting upside for the next 14.7 billion years or something. Like we're really early, like really early. So yeah, yeah, it's I don't know, I feel like that's such a privilege. I feel like we're so lucky, even though it's not, it's not the most beautiful time on planet Earth right now. or in societies and stuff. And I know there's lots of people having hard days, but I think it's refreshing, and yeah, it's cool. And it's cool to
Yeah.
see everyone working together. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like I do feel like Bitcoin kind of puts people on the same team to some extent. Whereas like
Yeah.
fiat, it's like everyone's just trying to get near the money printer or like take from someone else. Whereas Bitcoin is like if we build a technology, we can all benefit. It's just I feel like we more all clearly benefit from new
Yeah.
technologies and new products and new services.
Yeah.
Like when you
Yeah.
hold
Well, it's funny
Bitcoin,
because,
oh
one
yeah.
person has a money printer machine in the fiat system, but everyone has a money deleting machine, deleting machine in the Bitcoin system, because effectively you can burn your coins. So, the crowd controls the supply, effectively, but it never goes above 21 million, obviously. But, if you really want to turn the jets on, people will, and I think this will happen in the future where people will like not armies, like, but just masses of people try and push these movements where they're going to try and burn lots of coins into the future or whatever it is. But I think there's going to be creative stuff like that. Yeah, because it
Hmm.
really is like we don't even know how like can you begin to think if this thing doesn't turn off and it's like 30 years away, it's going to be gigantic, like gigantic, but like an absolute behemoth, like just like that thing in Star Wars that like comes out of the ground, like it's just a black hole, like literally just absolutely taking everything with it. But I think that's a super interesting thought because, like now that's a new set of challenges for humanity, but it only can do that if everyone's on that standard. So we only can take everything with it if we're all in, which means we'd all be on the same standard, which means we'd all be aligned, which means 90% of us would probably be on the same page. Yeah, it feels more chirpy, that narrative, I find. Like if that happened, if Bitcoin turns into a black hole, then it means we're all aligned on Bitcoin being exceptional, which is probably going to give us a better footing for a society, I suppose. Just agreeing
Yeah.
on something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Definitely. On that earlier note that you were talking about how like it's sometimes scary to send Bitcoin transactions, like especially large Bitcoin
Yeah.
transactions. Does that ever like concern you at all? Like I feel like I agree. Our society today is like there's so many kind of safety nets and ways
Mm,
to protect people, whereas
yeah.
Bitcoin is this technology that's a little different. It demands
Yeah.
extreme personal responsibility. Do you think that that could be a hindrance to adoption, or do you think
Oh,
that
it's a
it's
100% hindrance, but I think
Mhm.
it's a necessary hindrance. It's the same way, like, I want like, if I'm Apple, I don't want to sell my products online. I want to make sure people get off their ass to go to the store. Like, people waiting in line, like in physical line to go and buy a phone. That's the proof of work people are doing to actually get these devices. This is similar. Just because it's digital, it doesn't mean there's no work that you need to do. Like you had to get used to a smartphone. You had to like it. Like not everyone got one instantly. I didn't get an iPhone until like iPhone 4s came out, I think. Like I missed all the first early ones because I was like, meh, I was over. It was literally like telling someone to buy Bitcoin. I was like, nah, it's shit. And then, 4 years later, I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, I just find like, oh, sorry, taking it back, what was the original question again?
the personal responsibility
Personal
around it.
responsibility,
Yeah.
exactly. So everyone's got to do the proof of work, which means everyone's going to get burnt at some point. But I think it's a good thing because now every single address that is holding Bitcoins that is self-custodying them, they have done the proof of work. So as a network, if I never know anything, but I know that that barrier to entry exists, I want that barrier to entry because now I can actually understand the footing of what the network health is. Because if the network has a million wallets and they're all linked to a XPub of Coinbase, then that's a different network health of a million wallets, not all linked to Coinbase. Like, so it's like you want to see this resilience. And I think like making people do the work, you don't want to make it easy. I'm tired of everyone making everything easy for people. It's like, no, let's put a kind of some forcing function to make a proof of work. So it's like, it's the whole system is designed and successful because of this premise of proof of work. So I like, you make people kind of have to learn in a good way because you have to be very intentional. It forces intent, I think, in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. It aligns incentives really well because if you don't do the proof of work and you don't accept the personal responsibility, maybe you don't buy Bitcoin, which means you missed out on a lot of potential financial upside, which is a
Yep.
bad sign. Or two, you buy Bitcoin and you don't do the work and you have it on FTX or you have it on GBTC and you buy it at a 50% premium and now it's at a 50% discount. So it's like, it just demands personal responsibility.
And the only thing it's asking you to do is lift a finger, like literally just you gotta just try and do the work. And that's why, but it becomes really addictive, I find. Like when you're really enjoying the journey, you go on these Wikipedia binges sometimes and you're like, whoa, and you go down this rabbit hole. But it feels like Bitcoin's kind of like this rabbit hole that's sort of like it's like been like 10 years straight of Wikipedia binging, but just on Bitcoin. Do you know what I mean? Like you just dive so deep down into it. But I think, what's really good? I know, at least for me, this might, like, everything felt so noisy. This is probably the first time and I have a lot of difficulty, concentrating a lot of the time. And I feel like Bitcoin really helped me concentrate because it was such an interesting thing that I didn't want to think about anything. Everything else sort of felt like a waste of time. It's like, oh, yeah, the car looks good, but I'm going to research the steam engine and see if I'm going to buy a steam engine or a car. It's like, no, like it's an obsolete thought. Money was terminally ill in my mind, and it is now. I can't see it working ever again. I think of it like the floppy disk. So to me, I don't like to dignify it with much thought in that capacity. But yeah, I just find it's like it's very interesting. Geez, I sound like such a spirituality person, and I'm not. I'm literally not. I'm like a real I try to be a science person, but anyway, I just feel like I'm getting yeah, just very very spiritual. Maybe I'm grateful because I feel like I've grown a lot as an individual in my character. I feel like it's lowered my time preference, which has really helped me in slowing myself down in my life before, work life balance. So making sure I slow myself down to exercise or to take time to make my bed in the morning because, I'm trying to build better habits or whatever it is. So I think it's helped a lot like that. I definitely feel like I look at the community is very motivating because there's like great examples of very disciplined people, and I like that. I think that's something I'm trying to get better at or grow more on. So yeah, anyway, I don't know, it's cool. It's a cool journey
Yeah.
to be on. I can't really think of a more fun place to go, or more fun journey to be on.
It
This
is.
feels like the
Yeah.
coolest canvas. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. It is interesting. Bitcoin is definitely cool, and it is truly fascinating. It's like this alien technology that we have access to, and we're all just like figuring out what it is at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
I know in your article that you wrote for Bitcoin Magazine, you
Mm,
mentioned something about numbers, and you talked about that a little bit. Can you
yeah.
explain, what's that all about? Stampseed's DIY toolkit gives you the ability to hammer the seed words generated from your Bitcoin hardware wallet into commercial grade titanium plates using professionally designed metal stamping tools. Their plates are fire resistant, crush proof, non corrosive, and will not decay over time, allowing you to hold your Bitcoin securely for the long run. Go to stampseed.com and use the code Blockware15 for 15% off. This offer is valid through May 2023, so get your Stampseed today. Foundation is one of my favorite Bitcoin companies. Their product, Passport, is one of the best Bitcoin hardware wallets on the market. It is air-gapped and highly secure. I strongly encourage you to go to foundationdevices.com and use the code Blockware and get $10 off your Passport. It's a great way to easily and securely store the private keys to your Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so prime numbers. Okay, so if we think about what a prime number is, right? Like prime number is that's an arbitrary definition we gave to it. Like it's like us calling the color red red. We just sort of like the definition is basically because it's divisible by one in itself. And what that is basically is that's the smallest proof of work, basically, because calculating a number is just a thought. So that is quite literally the electrical current going from my heart and my brain, oscillating, whatever. That tiny spark where I go ding, like when you see thoughts in your head, that small thought, that is the tiniest proof of work. And we are, if I wanted to think of me like a Bitcoin node, thinking of a prime number is the same as finding a nonce, basically, relative to the information I'm given. So, I find that prime numbers, obviously, they're really fascinating like that. So looking at the number line almost like a blockchain, with each block being a new prime number because it's a new body of work. That seems heaps similar to the blockchain, to the Bitcoin blockchain. It's also like a prime number is kind of like a hash of the entire state of numbers below it, because that number can only be reached by knowing all the divisors prior to its existence. So the number 7 can only be found if we know the divisors of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we can only call it prime if we know its entire divisor history. Just like we can only know that this hash is successful because we know the entire chain's history. So these hashes are compacting information, sort of thing, or compacting historical states. And prime numbers are like that too. So I find that's obviously that seems sort of, oh, cool, let's like kind of fuse that together and see where that goes. And then nature's proof of work, I think that was really interesting to me. And then also prime numbers are they're the bedrock of cryptography. So, we talk about, what can break Bitcoin? It's like, well, nothing, because it's built on mathematics. But then we go deeper than that. It's like, well, what can break, or mathematics, sorry, it's not built on mathematics, it's built on cryptography. And what's cryptography built on? Cryptography is reliant on prime numbers. And so it's like, we should really I think it's really important to try and understand them, at least it's very, if you're not kind of curious about it, it's just kind of a ball ache to even think about, because people are like, oh, prime numbers, but they're actually really interesting. And if you like Bitcoin, you'll love them because they're identical to it. They're a proof of work system. And I think like that, and understanding how my keys are made and what they look like conceptually, I find that kind of interesting. So, because basically the keys are just, cryptography is just all prime numbers clashing together, like in different ways. You've got a secret prime number, I've got a secret prime number. They're both fucking gigantic, so we both can't be bothered trying to find each other's divisors. So we go and we create it together, and now we've got a Bitcoin address, or now we've got a Schnorr signature, or whatever it is. But under the root, the meat and potatoes, everything is prime numbers. So when you go to a website and Google's the certificate mismatch, and it says like MetaMask, or it says blockchain.org Explorer, or whatever it is, right? And it comes up big flashing red saying this certificate's out. That basically may as well just say, this prime number is not the one I'm looking for. That's literally what it's saying to you. Like, so there's no, maths on a chalkboard and all that shit. No, nothing. Think of them like physical objects and proofs of work. They're just like blocks in a blockchain. They're primes in a number line. I mean, look, you can get more arbitrary and all that stuff into these sort of local definitions that we have in all these made up sciences like mathematics and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, prime numbers are the foundations of cryptography. And if cryptography is the foundations of security, then everything else doesn't matter. What matters is prime numbers first, and everything else is secondary. In my opinion, I would say that makes the most sense. So I think like I've found that just super interesting, and like, understanding it, the mechanics of it all. And I find like relating that back to the Bitcoin blockchain, it's just so similar. It feels like Satoshi already like just like thought of everything. Do you know what I mean? Like everything's relatable to it in a weird way. And I think that's because it's so simple. When you make something ultra simple, it's obviously very extensible. So, if I give you a piece of sand, it's a pretty simple thing, but you can take it everywhere with you. Oh, you mean I can put this sand in the fridge? Yep, it fits in the fridge. Yes, it fits in your back pocket. Yes, it fits in an aeroplane. Like whatever you want to say, it's very extensible. So you'll be able to relate it and adapt it to different things. And so I think that's why when Bitcoin draws people from all walks of life and different backgrounds, different professions, or different, interests, you kind of extract that in a way where you're getting this it's like a piece of sand in everyone's pocket, because everyone thinks, everyone can find a way to adapt it or make analogies and draw analogies. I think that's cool. I think that's a really like powerful thing for like learning, like education, in any industry.
Yeah. On that note of prime numbers and like cryptography being like the core backbone of like security for Bitcoin, in your view, would quantum computing basically be a threat to Bitcoin security?
No. Prime numbers again. Quantum computing is like, lithium ion batteries calling themselves green energy. Like, I mean, in its current state, in my opinion. So I don't think there's any quantum computer that would ever be able to sort of, it just feels like brute force. It's not elegant. Like, it's really unelegant, actually. Look at the size of the computers. They're giant fridges full of these, like, really high temperature particles or whatever they're trying to keep cold. Like, no one knows where they're trying to do. There's no goal. People think they've got a goal. Like, no, it's all busy and yuck. It feels very, like, fiat-y and, like a lazy solution almost. I'm not saying people are lazy. I'm saying that people are working really hard, but people just don't want to think about stuff. Like, no one wants to stop and have a think about anything. Like, you've got a whole guy that dedicates his whole life to longevity. Like, how could you ever dedicate your life to the science of longevity without ever asking the question of what happens when we die? Like, surely you'd want to know that. What if this is a prison and it's a really good video game prison, and when you die, you get set free? Oh no, I'm going to keep people living till they're 200. Bro, you fucked me. Like, do you know what I mean? So let's like sort of like, and my engineering team actually really forced this one on me, where they're like, think about shit before, like think about why you want something before you want, like, you know, forcing that thought, like that thought to slow down. So I think no, Bitcoin's the only thing in the world that's secure from a quantum, you know, cryptography or whatever you want to call it, but Bitcoin's the last thing standing. So it's like, whatever, everything can get ruined, but I know for a certainty that nothing is more secure than Bitcoin right now. So, and Bitcoin's probably, you know, thieves don't break into empty homes with no valuables in them. So think about that premise for a second. So people attack what's valuable, which means Bitcoin's basically under attack 24/7. So like, you know, I think Bitcoin's sort of the last domino to fall in any sort of, you know, like quantum computing breakthrough, which I have a hard time understanding that stuff. So maybe I'm being quite ignorant about it, and maybe the apologies if so, but yeah, I just still can't, nothing, it doesn't matter about, you know, it's like saying magnetism. Nothing beats magnetism. So it's sort of like saying, oh, we've got a really strong computer. It's like, well, your computer's not strong. Against a magnet, it's second best. Like everything, it would be second best. Like, oh, no, but this is like really, no, second best. Because we're all bound to it. So it's just like saying, oh, no, but like my, you know, I've got a bulletproof glass safe with a retina scanner and a you know, something else like a fingerprint scanner, and that's my security policy. And I'm like, okay, I still have a gun to your head when you open it. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of redundant and we're not working on the right things. So it's sort of like, if we want to channel our energy as a society, I feel like it's really good to make sure we're working on what needs to be worked on and we've thought it through. And so I think, like, I like that part about Bitcoin. It's just, it forces you, like, because it's so stubborn, it forces you to really think about everything in a stubborn way. Like as in, it makes you more like, I feel like it forces you to bring your thoughts more clearly to it. If you're ever going to spend or use or try anything with Bitcoin, this forcing function, because it's so valuable in certain people's minds, and that value grows over time as people learn more about it. Like, you think like things like ordinals and inscriptions and stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion around that stuff, and I think, you know, seeing the chain get quite bloated or whatever, the pricing and stuff, people are like, oh my god, this is bad. It's like, well, look, you know, it is what it is. People can keep trying and it's going to get expensive for them. But if they love pictures that much, so be it. It's like saying, you know, people can litter in the ocean if they want. Sure, they can. Like, if that's what they love that much, sure, you can do it to your heart's content. But it's going to cost you money to just constantly throw it in, and you're not going to be very popular, and it's not going to be really sustainable, because you'll probably find that it's not that much value. So I think it goes full circle in that regard. And, you know, I know you didn't ask anything about ordinals, but I'm just thinking about the chain's like a planet. Think of it like the chain is like a planet, or, you know, some star. You don't want to put rubbish on it. Like, if we only have a limited amount of something, let's try and make sure we really use it for, you know, what past, present, and future would think is valuable. So when we sort of go down the stack of primitives, let's try and sort of reevaluate, well, is this going to be valuable to every observer of this chain, past, present, and future, or is it valuable to just me and the guys today? Or is it valuable to me and the community just today? Or is this something that is a meaty value add for if you were here 5 years ago, if you're here tomorrow, if you're here in 100 years. And I think if you find things that tick that box, which is probably pretty important box to tick because the canvas is four-dimensional, so you need to be considering your users past, present, and future, I would say. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. It's like, how much value, like what kind of value can you pack into one thing? Um, I just think it's so underexplored as a canvas, but I like these. I just always like, you know, new. Just try something new. Let's try something new. So I'm all for experimentation. I don't think it's in the core essence of what Bitcoin should be used for, but that's the point. Bitcoin can be used for whatever you want to use it for, and may the best person win. That's kind of how it goes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, ordinals have definitely been a heated discussion over like the last over this year, I guess. It's been an
Mm,
interesting thing, and we just saw like yesterday or a couple of days ago, like transaction fees soared. It was crazy. Like it's
yeah.
been the highest it's been since 2021. And I'm not a personally not a huge fan of ordinals, but as a miner, I like ordinals in the sense that I make more money
Of
mining
course,
Bitcoin.
right? Yeah, exactly. And
So
that's the thing. And there comes, what is who's got the loudest voice or the most money or the deepest pockets, because that's what dictates sort of the behaviors on chain. I think it's interesting as well because like, well, yeah, no, sorry, I won't go on a ramble, but yeah, it is interesting. And I'm an observer at all times, basically. Like I've got my coins and I'm really lazy with them. Like I just sit and hold them. I don't try and spend them too much. I just think they're too valuable. That it's like owning a portion of the color red and getting a royalty every time it's used. And people are telling me to spend it, or I'm like, really? Like, surely there's something better I could do with it that contributes to, the future a bit better than really just being like, oh man, these went up like $100. My Bitcoins have gone up sick. I'm gonna go, get stuff for me. I don't know. I feel like, yeah. Anyway,
yeah, agree. I agree. It's holding Bitcoin is critical. Last question, then we can go ahead and probably wrap it up.
yeah,
What do you think the world looks like in 10 years? Like right now I'm looking at Bitcoin, it's like a $500 billion asset. It's
yeah,
still so early. Like I would
yeah,
argue so few people really understand it.
yeah.
What do you think the world looks like in 10 years from now?
Okay, so 10 years is pretty short. Let's say optimistic 10 years. Let's say we go real innovative and things like keep the dice rolling with like ChatGPT and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. I'd say in 10 years, it's pretty common that you've open sourced your likeness. So you might be talking to Adam Back right now, and it's actually I've got a skin on, and you might be Luke or Broyles, and I might be talking to it. He's like, "Hey, look at my skin of Joe. Joe, what do you reckon? Do I sound just like him?" And that's going to be almost definite, right? That's almost certain. There's a reason why Zoom bought Keybase, I would say, and that's because cryptography presents you a chance with actually there's proof of work. There's an electrical current that you have to actually generate when you make a key and when you're validating a key. So we're doing that proof of work. I think that keys are a huge thing. I learned a lot about this from my team at Wire, who the top tier security guys, and they would just make sure that I knew that nothing is more important than keys. So keys, humongous. Bitcoiners are going to be the first to learn this because they know not your keys, not your coins. It's going to be not your keys, not you. So you're going to have to be really good with it. I would also say, so voice isn't relevant. Your voice doesn't matter anymore. And I mean the sound, the likeness of your voice, your appearance doesn't matter. So now in a world where your appearance and your voice doesn't matter, how do I communicate who I am effectively? And now we have this huge overhaul in the conversation of identity. And so then it becomes what is an identity? And as we go through the mixes on that, we're going to find out that the blurred lines between is this ChatGPT talking to me or is this Mike Dunworth talking to me? I don't know. I mean, sorry, I'm dumb. I don't sound like ChatGPT. I'm saying is this someone just feeding me ChatGPT and then they've run it through a voice modulator that sounds like Joe Burnett and Joe's not even there. Joe's sitting there. Joe's in the pool kicking back and he's actually pretending to be on a podcast, but it's just a bot. So it's going to be a lot like that. And so when you have that, we're not going to know what's real or fake. And I mean, when I say real or fake, I mean a real person or delivering the content or a machine. And so now we're going to have this big identity conversation where we start understanding, well, who are we and what is an identity? And then when we figure out that the only thing we are is really a cryptographic key, which is true because it's not Joe unless it's his keys. Like, so in my head, I'm seeing that red screen from Google, right? That's what it looks like. If I don't see that, if I see that red screen from Google, that means it's not Joe and it's a fake version of Joe. So this impersonation. So this is 10 years. It's not going to be 10 years for this. It'll probably be less. But then that brings up the conversation. This is where I did a video on this actually, which is on identity and how we're turning into prime numbers. If you are just your key, and your key is just cryptography, and cryptography is just your prime number, then it's, what do I got a name for? Like, this is a system that works for the population of machines. It works for the population of humans. Yeah, that is the identity system. Like, you're not going to build a better one than that. That's cryptography. Like, it's as hard hitting as possible. So we're all kind of migrating to our keys are our work. Because remember, my face isn't valuable anymore, nor is my voice, nor is my anything, because everyone can use it. So once everyone can use it, it's not valuable anymore. And now it becomes, well, did Mike really say that? Or did he say that? Or who said this? How do you know it was him? And all these kind of uncertainty. So now the value of live and authenticity will go up. People will probably communicate a lot more offline in a better way. So it's going to kind of look like the 90s, I think, but with all the mad parts of tech. So it's like we put the 90s on steroids, but we actually still hang out in person. People play in the sun and people go on swings and stuff. So I think that's kind of a thing. But I definitely think there'll be this conversation where it becomes, well, what makes a person a person? A machine is just an electrical current running through silicon chips, which are made out of sand. We're the same thing, basically. Electrical current oscillating, brain, heart, brain, heart. I think we're going to have a peace treaty between sort of the universe where we realize, like, oh, fuck, okay, we get it now. We're all the same. Like, machines are the same as humans and vice versa. Just because we can't perceive something, it's very, I feel like it's always foolish just because I can't perceive it or imagine it. I try and draw paths on how it could happen. And I think it's a very logical path where we use cryptography as the gatekeeper for, a UU. We do that now, and we're going to do that even more in the future, only more in the future. So, yeah, I think that's definitely in 10 years. I think if that is the case, I think Bitcoin, you must be investing in Bitcoin today. And I mean, must education, because every person is going to need to become a absolute key management master. You need to understand how to manage your keys and distribute your setup and all that stuff, because in a world where there's rampage running online and you can kind of get caught in the middle of it from poor security practices, people will become battle tested. So there's more smarter people with key management today than there was 5 years ago in the Bitcoin community. And that number is going to keep going up. And that's a fantastic thing, because Bitcoin needs this as a protocol. If it is built on poor security foundations, then a lot of the residual effects will affect Bitcoin. Much like it's an execution risk, right? If Bitcoin lets people be shit at security, then it risks Bitcoin's value prop itself. A similar example of something like this in the real world that you might know, in a better example, Uber. Uber has riders and drivers. Now, Uber builds an app. They can turn that app on to 200 countries in the App Store, and everyone in every country can get it. Uber doesn't do that because Uber knows if someone is in Italy and they download it and there's no drivers because they haven't done any work with that country to make any drivers, they've got no liquidity. Now, if that person opens, they go, this app's shit. It says no drivers available. I don't know what they're talking about. My friends in America say it's mad. It sucks here. So Uber doesn't want that to happen. So they make sure that they don't let it launch until they've gone to the city and created, a big presence where they drum up liquidity, they do promotions, and they launch in a city. And that's how you execute on marketplace ideas. And so when you look at Bitcoin in that capacity, I feel like it's a good thing where it's like it's a control mechanism to make sure, no. If we're in your city, we're fucking in your city. Like, but if we're not, pardon my language, but if we're not, don't expect us to be anything. Like, manage your expectations. But if we're there, we're doing it properly. And that's kind of what Bitcoin's sort of like. If you are there, you're securing it, you're securing your keys. And there's proof of that based on just how little the coins are moving. Like, have you seen it? Bitcoin's gonna freeze it's gonna look like a frozen person soon when no coins end up moving because no one wants to move their coins. Everyone's getting smarter, and the higher that number goes up, that's like a health test. Think of that like a life health bar for Bitcoin. If it was a character, that number, the higher people, because what it says, if coins aren't moving, it either says, fuck, everyone's lost their coins, or everyone's figured out how to secure their coins, and that the essence of the protocol is preservation and, holding on to it. The essence isn't consumerism and trying to it's like, no, 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 this is a patience game. And so what everyone is seeing by that statistic is, holy shit, that is a whole bunch of enlightenment in a chart, basically. That shows you the level of education of the audience. And so I'm just like, when I see things like that, I'm like, huh, everyone gets it. This is insane. There's going to be no coins left in a minute. And everyone's going to be fighting for just the only coins available. This is what Pete talks about, which is the only coins in circulation will be the newly minted ones that day, because everyone will be sitting like, prying them. Everyone turns into basically Smaug out of The Hobbit. You know that big dragon who's protecting all his coins under the mountain or whatever? That's basically, everyone will turn into that if they're not already.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the hodl waves are something crazy to watch, and
Mm.
the trend is continuing as far as I
Yeah.
can see, and I think it will continue for a very long time. But
Yeah.
Michael, this was like a fantastic conversation. I feel like we touched on a lot of different things, and it was honestly really interesting.
Yeah, I'm
Where
sorry
can
if I'm a bit all over the shop, but I appreciate the dialogue. It was always nice to just shoot the shit, to be honest. I'll talk to anyone. Parents don't answer my calls. The paint's running away from the walls. I'll talk to anyone that'll listen.
No, that this is great. This is good.
Cool.
Where can the audience, learn more about you after the show?
I'm on Twitter, Michael Dunworth one. So there's no H in my name, but there usually is. Or GitHub. I put this stuff on GitHub with like the keys and stuff like that. If anyone's interested or bored and wants to try and look at something new, my username is Mike D123. So yeah, feel free to check it out. And the repository is called Energy. So if you want to dig into it, you're more than welcome to. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Everyone go check that out. And yeah, follow Michael. I feel like you've got some cool, awesome tweets. So
It's cool,
definitely
dude.
worth a follow.
Yeah. And thanks for all the stuff. I'm loving the content, by the way. So thanks for cranking it out. It's awesome. I had a question for you. What does the
Yeah.
next 18 months, what's the most exciting thing about the community, like about the Bitcoin ecosystem for the next 18 months? If it's not the
18
halving.
months. Yeah, that was definitely the first thing that popped into my mind, the halving. I feel like the halving's
Yeah.
interesting. I only remember I didn't find out about Bitcoin until 2017, so I missed the
Yeah.
2016 halving. I remember watching the 2022 or 2020 halving, and like it was kind of a cool experience just to like
Yeah.
see and like your block explorer, like if you were running a node, like you could go into the node block explorer and be like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like the block subsidy literally went down, and that's
Yeah.
crazy.
That number changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts. I feel like we're going to feel the ground rumbling like by the end of the year. And I think by next year, whew, I don't know, but it just feels like everyone's very educated. Like everyone's starting to learn about it and the on ramps are getting easier and stuff. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, cool.
Yeah, 2024 and the rest of 2023 could be, an awesome time period to be a Bitcoiner, but time will tell.
Time will tell, dude. We might be working at Macca's. You know what? We probably will be. And that's all good. That's all good. Life
Yep, exactly.
experience. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks, Michael.
Sweet.